Hi everybody, welcome to the Poetry Blog. Today in this episode you will find a conversation with Larissa Lai. Larissa is a professor, amazing writer in both poetry, fiction, and scholar who thinks critically. And what did we cover today?
We talked about the difference between fiction and poetry, and also the difference in terms of the way that they're read. And then we had quite the conversation about affect theory, didn't we?
Yeah.
And the difference between working with affect and working with the bounded enlightenment subject.
Perfect. Thank you. And in this episode, we will break down those concepts for you, and especially what we mean when we say the enlightenment-bounded subject.
Right.
Now, we have the call for comments, right? And what's your call for comments today?
Oh, my call for comments is for anybody who experiences internal contradiction to write in about that.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will add on to that, if, as always, this is always in the call, if this episode ends and you're still not clear what that new term is, just say so in the comments and I'll hop in and I'll try to help out a little bit more. So as always, I'll be in dialogue in the comments. And here we go.
Great.
All right.
Wonderful.
Enjoy. Welcome to this episode with Larissa. Will you introduce yourself?
Sure. So hi everybody, my name's Larissa Lai, and I'm a novelist, I'm a poet, I'm a critic. Some of you might know me for this new novel called The Tiger Flew. Wow, you can't see it. Or an older one called Saltfish Girl. I'm also a poet. There's a poetry book called Automaton Biographies. And I have a Canada Research Chair in Creative Writing at the University of Calgary, which for those of you who don't know is in Canada in the province of Alberta.
Perfect. Thank you. And one reason I was so excited to have you with us today is you're excellent in writing across genres. And in both genres, you don't necessarily let go of what language can do beyond what we might talk about, right? The lyric. So would you mind reading a little bit for us from both genres?
Sure. Fantastic. Thanks so much for having me, Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read a little bit from The Tiger Flew, from very early in the novel, but not the very beginning. So I'll just to give a little bit of setup. So it's speculative fiction. It's set in this sort of, not really the near future, like the mid to distant future. And this section I'm going to read, it's from one of the characters called Cora Ko, who lives with her family in a tall apartment building. They have access to the roof. Things in this city called Saltwater City are not going so well. There's not very many people left in the building. There's a disease called the tiger flu that's kind of decimating the city. So she's up there hanging out with her pet goat, who may be not with them much longer. And she's surprised by somebody on the roof, and I'm going to start there. Something rustles behind the shed. She drops her feet to the ground. Who's there? No answer. She goes to look, but before she's taken half a step, a young man leaps out and grabs her from behind. Boo! Motherfuck, get off me! Who the hell are you? Actually, she recognizes him. He's a friend of her brother's, Stash Sachs. He looks awful. His face is covered with weeping sores. His eyes ooze pus. What happened to you? How did you get up here? K2 gave me the keys. K2 is her brother. K2 gave me the keys. We lost our jobs this week because we're too sick to lift the elk in the abattoir. That's awful. He grips her tighter, nibbles her ear. Please let go. He doesn't. I mean it. You don't want me to hug you anymore? Stash, I would rather hug a Grist sister. Let go, really. Dirty Cora Ko, says the boy. There's no such thing as Grist sisters. They're just a story told by sad old men. The bear hug from behind turns aggressive. Let go of me. Her scales writhe. You'll find out what scales are if you read further on. Her scales writhe. When I wasn't sick, you liked me just fine. I did not. I hardly know you. The last healthy member of the Coe family. He leans in, licks her face with his white tongue. Ugh, what are you trying to do? He bites her cheek hard enough to break skin. Trying to give me your disease? He's fierce, but he's thin, even thinner than Cora. She might be hungry, but she's tough as an old shoe, where he's pale and wasted. She kicks a foot out from under him. Little whore, what did you do that for? He pulls her to the ground with him, rubs his face into hers, tries to stick his tongue in her mouth. Get off me! Rolls him over. Gripped by jealousy and desire, he won't let go. On the battered concrete floor that once kept water out of the apartments below, they roll over one another, closer and closer to Uncle Y's potato jars and the crumbling wall. They'll go over the edge if they aren't careful. Cora throws her weight in the opposite direction, towards Delphine's pen. Delphine is the goat. She's heavier than Stash. Back they roll. Her weight on him makes his heart pump. He finds fresh strength. Towards the wall they turn again. You little shit, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. Cora won't be defeated. She jams her shoulder hard against his and forces their momentum back Delphine's way. Rage grips him, makes him superhuman for a moment. They spiral furiously into a jar. It tips over and hits the wall. Fragments of loose concrete clatter to the ground 40 feet below. The wall gives. The jar crashes overboard and smashes into the sidewalk. I'm not going to die just because you are. She forces him back, and they roll all the way to Delphine's fence. The old goat bleats panic. It isn't fair. He pushes on top of her again, rolls her towards the brink as she attempts to pull her arm free to punch him. Here's the edge. There's no wall to protect them. Holy shit, they're going to fall. Over the ledge they go. Cora grabs a coil of loose rebar. The sick boy clings to her waist. I don't want to die. She could kick him in the belly and he would plummet. She feels the temptation. Her arm begins to quiver. She can't hold their weight for much longer. She has to decide now. She hoists them both back up to the safety of the rooftop garden. You little fuck, she hisses. The monsoon clouds burst open and shower them. Stash trembles, flat on his belly beside her, gets a hold of himself and gives her a crooked grin, half malevolent, half teasing. Piss off, Cora says. I don't care if you are my brother's friend. You're not welcome in my house. So it's a little fragment from that one.
That was intense in the best way, but now I want to know what the scales are.
We can talk about those.
Yeah.
We can talk about those.
Excellent. And you'll also read more of your work, right?
I'm going to read, I'm going to read from a long poem that I've been working on for the last couple of years, really. It's not published yet.
Okay.
It's not finished yet. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. Yeah. Okay, here's the one that makes the people laugh.
Okay.
Dear freedom of speech, you leech, masquerading as democratic process, I saw you in the washroom at Montana's wiping beef grease from your beard. Weird or feared, your fury's dreary, trolling beneath the bridge of birds webbing our digital sky. You swing the pubic of public opinion, spinning the rotten onion one fart at a time, lining your pockets with the proceeds of Wall Street greed, feeding at the trough of rough golf and grim bills passed by bullies in the lamer chambers, masquerading as corridors of power. You were beautiful once, a bunch of daisies, a bed of poses, loaning your glamour to all and sundry as part of the parcel colonialism dressed as democracy. I'm not too shy to wear that dress, battered and tattered, ill-fitting in the hip and crotch, and screaming gotcha, mad as a crow on the hatter's wire every time the wrong body steps out of line. It's fine, I bide my time, dreaming signs and pigeons, passing on the truth of the park, stark as cop cars policing my neighbor's hood. Gratitude says, be good, we thought you'd be nice, expedient, obedient, take the blunt force of Maxwell's pilfered hammer, sold down the shiver or horse traded down by the tracks, where hackers anonymous and raised up only posthumously so some young guy can make a career, drink beer paid by your fear. Clarity, charity, the mock of democracy is that you're only meant to adore it, adore the white man's exploration. The habit of inhabitation is the straitjacket of race and know your place. Face it, the encounter's only for the Chinaman if she wipes it down herself. How to sweet talk a persimmon. Wait till it's soft. Peel bitter skin. Slurp down flesh.
Whew.
Goes on like for an hour.
Yeah, I could listen to that for an hour actually. Yeah, I love rage. That makes sense.
Sometimes you gotta get it out.
Yep.
Sometimes you gotta get it out.
2 questions. One's very basic, but I want our listeners to know what's the general narrative arc of the Tiger Flu. So, when you're like, this book is about in a basic way, so that folks know, like, oh, I love that snippet. Here's what I can expect.
Right. The narrative arc. There's two young women. One of them is a woman in more or less the same way as you and I are, kind of, a woman born, biologically reproductive, in the way that we normally think of it.
Yeah.
And then the other is a clone, living in a village of clones. They're all clones of the same woman.
Oh, okay.
But they have mutated so that there's three types. The types form socially as though they are a kind of gender, but it's very different from the way we understand gender in the present moment. And so her name's Kirilo, and it's Kirilo's story that's driving the narrative. She loses her lover to too many organ donations, which she herself has to carry out. And then shortly after that, the village in which they live is invaded. And the type of grist sister that the lover was, she was the last one.
Okay.
So Kirito has to find another. And because there's none left in the village. And the village has just been attacked. There's very few of them remaining. And she goes to the city called Saltwater City, which is where Cora, who you just heard from, where Cora lives. And so then the narrative is the narrative of, their adventures, how they come to meet, how they barely escape the city, and then what happens to them in the aftermath.
Okay. And that scene was so violent, right?
It was,
The poem was so angry. Right? So, a not basic question is, what
it's not my nature. I'm very sweet.
Well, that's exactly it, right? I get it. I coach boxing and I'm very sweet. I'm a Hufflepuff, Slipper and Rising, right? But that's what I love about it, though, actually, right?
Oh,
so can you talk a bit about what the 2 different modes offer you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the snippet we heard did for you in writing that the sort of almost manifesto, actually, I would say, right? Other piece didn't, and vice versa.
Right. It does have a bit of a manifesto quality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking about it as manifesto. They first started as a series of letters, so some of the other ones, more so than this one, I'm repeating the dear, and it becomes a kind of, there's a word for that I should know because I've been teaching poetry.
Right.
But where you repeat the word and it sort of becomes a kind of a sound container for the anaphora. Thank you very much. So a sound container for the project, for the words. I would not call it a manifesto though, because it's so internally contradictory. I mean, as you heard, even in that piece, and it's actually more intense in some of the other fragments where the grammar really, really falls apart. So it's not claiming anything. It's not making a declaration of anything. But it is trying to work through a range of affects that I think, well, I know they're flowing through this body.
Right.
I don't necessarily claim them as part of myself in that kind of way that, it's like, I claim this is who I am, this is part of my identity. I don't claim them in that kind of way. I think of them as profoundly social, actually.
Yeah. What do you mean when you say you're not claiming them, but they're social?
So I'm not claiming them as part of my me. I think that one of the things that, we're going through in this moment, especially with all, I know you're very interested in these things, with all of its attachments to social media and the production of selves through our Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, Instagram, all of that. Which of course, we inherit. It's our Western Enlightenment tradition. We inherit it, this notion of the bounded self. I am defined by this number of things, right?
Yeah.
I'm Asian, I'm queer, I live in Canada, all those things make me who I am. I don't like to think about myself in that kind of way. I mean, I will in certain political moments when it's, when it seems politically necessary, I will do it. But I don't really experience myself that way, and I would suggest that many of us, maybe all of us, don't. And that there's something actually profoundly ideological, right?
Yeah.
About the production of these selves in that kind of way.
Yeah. The enlightenment and this idea of the bound self, right, is that you are able as a human, specifically as a human, right, to access understanding of who you are through your ability to think and feel it and say that that's what you are, so to speak, right? So it's like a sort of transcendental, but also like, so transcendental in the sense of like, I think, therefore I am.
Yes, I was going to say, some people will think about it as Cartesian, right? I think, therefore I am capable of these thoughts. These thoughts come from my brain, as opposed to my heart, or really, they come from my mind.
And then bounded as in like you're sealed off into this social category.
That's right.
And it's not porous or in flux. It's like a sort of determinate way of thinking about your identity and yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think what your poem's tapping into, and actually I would say the fiction piece, right, is the way that those identities are constantly being constructed, and it's kind of a slipping back and forth between them through feeling.
That's right.
That actually creates those like coalitional moments.
Exactly.
Maybe, or like possibilities.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah.
I loved it. Can you pull back up? Because I wanted to point a couple lines I really loved.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I was like, I don't want to be weird. I'll put my glasses on. So here it is. So, the habit of inhabitation is the straitjacket of race and know your place.
Yeah.
Face it, the encounter's only for the Chinaman if she wipes it down herself. And that was when I was like, oh, I get that. In such a guttural way, right? And so in terms of poetic language play, the habit of inhabitation is like gorgeous to say, right? And it rolls off in this like, wait a second, these are related words. Like the sort of like habitual is related to the where, right? And then the straitjacket of race and know your place. So this way that you're sort of painted as it like not crazy, but like you're seen as needing to stay within that kind of like spot or that place.
But of course we use straitjackets in our culture, right, to contain people whose mental state we don't think of as proper or normal or belonging to the socius.
Yeah.
When actually one might argue that, we're all inhabiting these straitjackets all the time.
Exactly. So it's like a sort of like, it's critiquing, right, this idea that there's the person who belongs in the straitjacket and the person who doesn't, and it's calling attention to the ways that like we're disciplined into those, right? And even when it seems like it could be a space of liberation. So what is affect, right? And let's talk a bit about that. Like, what does that offer you? That like the sort of enlightenment style of like, I think, therefore I am, doesn't.
Right. We think when something happens that we don't like, say a young man jumps out from behind a bush and tries to grab us, we feel angry.
Yeah.
But actually, and we might think, this anger is my anger. But it is. Like, in one sense it is. So I'm not saying let's throw out Descartes, let's not throw out. Like, you're allowed to be angry. You should be angry. That's really shitty. No guy has a right to grab you. But by the same token, the anger is also produced between the girl and the boy in this instance, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that's unfolding relationally between them. So that would be the difference between thinking about it sort of affectively on the one hand, and then thinking about it in a Cartesian way on the other.
Yeah.
And there, to be clear, right, neither way of thinking is wrong.
Right.
But it's just that one way of thinking allows for the opening of another set of politics, I would argue, and therefore another set of relations with people, animals, our food, our, everything.
Yeah.
And to me, there is productive power there.
Yes.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I'm conscious of doing with fiction is, I'm very aware that the fiction's more accessible than the poetry.
Okay.
But when I'm doing kind of wackadoodle stuff like that.
It's wackadoodle. I guess I traffic in poetry too much. That was awesome.
All the fabulous poetry geeks will get it. And, and it will be, I hope, pleasurable or at least interesting. Whereas with the fiction, this is the hard thing, hey, that, I really struggle with, because in some ways I feel like poetry gets at the thing in a much more honest, precise, and full way than fiction will ever be able to. But the flip side of it is, the fiction's more accessible.
Yeah.
And the difficulty with poetry, as much as we would like to imagine otherwise, people without some measure of education in terms of how to read will find this difficult. Yeah. And I find that it's a conundrum and a contradiction.
Yeah.
Because I actually do believe, that this is poetry for the people.
Yeah.
That people can, if they want to, and if they have a little bit of time, find their way into it. But the culture that we're living in now, which is so profoundly intellectual and somehow weirdly imagines that anybody who's not educated can't figure it out, I think that's a myth, right?
It's a major
myth. And I think it's a myth of our present moment.
Yeah.
But it's a big one that's out there.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured out in poetry how to address that in order to draw in, folks who think of poetry in that kind of way.
Yeah.
And so sometimes fiction is a really great way. It's kind of like, okay, well, it's a story. Anybody can hear a story, right? Anybody can hear it.
Yeah.
And then if
brains are sort of trained for those pathways a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, right. And then you'll get, the Robert McKees of the world who say that humans are hardwired for story. I don't know if I believe that or not.
Yeah.
But we're certainly living in a culture that imagines story as accessible and poetry that's sort of hitting the language buttons on the first instance as not. Even though we all function in language, we all use it, we all speak it, but let's, and have an answer for that. So in the meantime, I do both.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Thank you, Larissa, for your generosity in doing this during a really hectic AWP.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It was very heartwarming.
Pleasure.
I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
So
really
you all
great.
got to witness a very woo experience for myself. I enjoyed it a lot. Everybody else who's following along, as always, you can find all of the information, including how to contact me. If you sign up for the newsletter, you get stickers and magnets, because I have a lot of them and I spent time making them and I like snail mail.
All right.
So if
I
you
want stickers and magnets.
You'll get one anyway because you're a guest. Anyway, sidebar. I love snail mail. So if you go to thepoetryvlog.com, it's a little what's called lightbox, as I learned this year.
Right.
And you just plug your information in, and I promise I won't email you more than twice, maybe 3 times a month, depending on what's happening around town. But the goal of the newsletter is to also feature what's happening for folks that have been on the poetry vlog. Okay. So not just what episodes have happened or what episodes are coming up, but like, hey, remember Abby was the first guest on it. She just became a poet in residence for Seattle Review of Books. Everybody celebrate Abby,
Yay.
So things like that as well. So it's a sort of coalition community building newsletter, not just newsletter. So there's that plug. And as always, you can find me on social, Chelsea_Grimmer, Twitter at the Poetry Vlog. And please buy both of Larissa's awesome books.
Yes. Buy all 6 of them.
Yeah. Right? While you're at it, get the full deal, But really, I would encourage you to buy hybrid genre writers, because if you find yourself just absorbed in language, they write the best fiction. Always. I know that now I have to buy this book because I haven't gotten this one. All right, I think that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It was really fun.
Bye, everybody. Have a lovely day.
Bye, everybody.